Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today, we will be setting up my November reading journal spreads. I read a total of 7 books in November. As I was filling out the annual spreads for this month, I noticed that I do not have enough space in my shelfie to account for all of the books that I've already read in December of 2024. So thinking for the next month's spreads, I need to be a little bit creative as to how I plan on fitting them into these annual spreads. I didn't read any new letter of the alphabet, sadly, so I feel like I'm just not going to be accomplishing this challenge this year. I finished the year with 81 books, and so clearly there is not enough space in my Goodreads challenge to account for all of those, so sadly I'm going to have to adjust in the spread as well. I did manage to fill one more square in my bingo challenge, and that is read a book that you've owned for over 2 years. And the book that I read for that prompt is The Priory of the Orange Tree. The favorite book for the month of November was Eleanore of Avignon. I started 3 new series this month because that's what I do. I start a series and I never finish it. 3 of the books that I read, I actually own a physical copy of, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm slowly knocking out the physical TBR list. I'm really grateful for all of the support you guys have shown on my latest YouTube video, and thank you so much to the new subscribers. You made me hit my goal for the YouTube subscribers, so thank you so much. Starting with my November cover page, I wanted the theme of this month to be very November fall-y, so you're going to see a lot of like pumpkins and fall leaves and fall colors in this spread. I'm starting off with some Paperminty Studio washi tape, and I wanted to create like a torn off look, so that's why I'm kind of ripping apart some of the washi tape. For the main star of this page, I wanted to use this big Marigona Sule art sticker of a girl being all cozy in a chair, reading a book, surrounded by her kitties, and I thought it would be very fitting for this month. I then went in with my favorite stamps at the moment. I got these at my local Michael's. I think that might be available online as well, but I just stamped out the month of November. Lately, I've been in a kick about adding borders to everything that I own, and this is like every single journaling spread that I've been doing, be it in my reading journal or in my personal journal or even in my Hobonichi. I like adding some kind of like a border. I'm also using some pet tape from Paperminty Studio, and it's one of her fall ones, so I just thought it went fitting with the theme. I then used some of her sticky paper pads, and these are going to be where I will write out all of the books that I read for this month. From the same sticky paper pad that I got the first ones, I also used these other 3 ones to be kind of like the header for the stats that I track. And I tend to split my stats into 3 main sections. The first one is related to the author, and this includes information such as like author identity, location, nationality, stuff like that. The second part is genre, and this is the type of genre that I read, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, adult versus YA, and whether there is any LGBTQ plus representation. And the third part or section is kind of like a catch-all for everything else. I just call it ratings, so that's where I put my ratings, as well as what portion of the books I read via audio versus ebook versus physical. And I went in with my marker to kind of add a border around those sections. So this month I read all female authors, which is not surprising. I tend to read a lot of female authors, and I don't know, why. I just gravitate towards female authors mostly. 5 of them were from the USA, 1 was Great Britain, and another was New Zealand. There wasn't much diversity, they were all white. In terms of genre, every single book I read is fiction. I really want to get more into non-fiction books, but I just really like fiction. I can't help it. All 7 of them were also adult. Only 1 of them had an LGBTQ+ representation. And in terms of the genre, I read 2 romance, 2 fantasy, 2 historical fiction, and 1 sci-fi. In terms of rating, 2 of them were a 2-star rating, sadly. 3 of them were 4 stars, and 3 were 5-star ratings. 1 was an ebook, 2 were physical, and 4 were audio. Space was still looking a little bit too empty for my liking, so I just went in and added a few more stickers from the same sticker sheet. I then cut up some more of the pet tape from Paperminty Studio, and I just continued decorating. The stickers are also from Paperminty Studio. So this was my cover page for this month. The first book I finished in November was Holiday Wedding by Dr. Melissa Diamond. I received an ARC for this book, and sadly, it just was not for me. I found it very predictable, and the character is so unrealistic. Yeah, I should have DNF'd it way earlier, but mama raised no quitter, so here we are. The eye rolling started way early, when the female character insisted on flying coach because she's not like other girls, and loves to fly coach. Like, in what universe would someone avoid flying private because they love going to the airport 2 hours before the flight, sitting around doing nothing, getting squished in those tiny seats while children are screaming at you? Like, at least make it a bit realistic. I mean, come on. Things got worse throughout. The female character is planning a very intimate, secretive wedding, but invites the first person that is nice to her at a conference. Like, what? Oh yeah, the only aspect that I liked was the mystery part, but even that was executed so poorly by the end. In terms of the spread, all of the pet tape that you see is from London Gifties, and the washi tape is from Simply Gilded. The second book I finished was To Sir Phillip with Love by Julia Quinn. This is the 5th book, I believe, in the Bridgerton series, and I love the show. I really do. And so I had very high expectations for this book because this is Eloise's book. They did my girl Eloise so dirty, yo. I really hope the show doesn't mess up her character like this book did, because this was embarrassing. I was expecting better characterization for Eloise, but she's mostly just generic Regency girl with a side of, doesn't she talk a lot? Philip, on the other hand, is a self-centered snot weasel and never actually gets past that. He sure loves his plants, but he neglects his children and seriously expects expects to spend all day, every day at his work. I almost threw a fit when it became clear that something is very wrong with his children, and he's all like, oh, I'm such a bad father, I better make sure I keep my distance. Oh, and if I can find the perfect mother for them, that will make everything alright. So his plan to help his children is to avoid them and to find someone else to fix them. Like, I'm so mad at this book. I can't even describe it. But in terms of my spread, the Washi Tape is from Simply Gilded, and the Pet Tape is from London Gifties. So these were the first 2 books that I read in November. The third book was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now this is like the easiest spread that I've ever done. I just printed these fan art from Pinterest and then I just glued them in my journal, and I was just going to use the yellow space to write out my review for it. This is a well-written high fantasy with multiple amazing characters with strong female power, an epic war between good and bad, and lots of magic and dragons. It's a really long book though. The next book I read is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah Parker. This is the first book in a series, and it's a romantasy. A notorious assassin gets imprisoned. King, with the help of his dragon, breaks her out. There's an invisible sting pull between them. Someone's holding information back. You find out why they are so important to each other. There's some huffs and puffs and heated exchanges. Con Vager, the man you are, sitting on his lap would fix me. He's the definition of for however long it takes, even if it kills me. Because this man was aching and riddled with love. Not only does this man protect and support his vicious and powerful girlfriend every second, but he describes her as his salvation, more beautiful than the moon. Rave, the female rage reincarnate, angry, sad, strong, and always threatening to kill her man. She deserves all the love that Khan gives her. This was a very beautiful debut romantasy. I really enjoyed it. I felt like Rave was everything that Selena Sardothian wishes she was. In terms of the spread, I wanted to paint part of the book. Each chapter has a little image of the dragon with the moon. I have a special edition of this book and it's silver mostly, and so that's why I wanted to use a lot of silver in the spread. And I went in with my silver jelly roll first to create a border and then also the moon. And then at the end, I went in with my watercolor to give it more of the shininess that the moon glows at night. To be fair, this book could have been 100 pages less. The plot is pretty slow paced sometimes, but the poetic aspect of the story makes up for it. I can't wait for the sequel. make straighter lines in the stats that I track for each book in every page. I've had some washi tape to help me make straighter lines, and so I needed to wait a little bit before each one of them got dried out so I could move on to the next. But I really like how nice effect the watercolor gives. I then went in with my silver jelly roll and I just wrote out the name of the book in the dragon itself. The next book I read is Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris. This was a book that I read for my Read Around the World challenge, and the country for this was Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is an amazing novel about an artist surviving the siege in Sarajevo during the Balkan War in 1992. Sarajevo was encircled by Serb forces and cut off from the outside world during a siege that lasted over 1,000 days. It is the longest siege in modern warfare and resulted in the deaths of over 11,000 citizens. Over 600 of them were children. It is narrated by a local painter who, like so many people, never believed that the city would be invaded or that the war would last so long. Few of the details of the war are discussed in this novel. Instead, it's more of a personal account by Zora of her hardships during this difficult time when food and fuel for heat became scarce and snipers and bombs became part of the daily life. It was inspiring and heartening to read how people helped each other during this difficult time. For this spread, I'm using this black moths from London Gifties. I wanted to create some kind of like a border around them and have them being stuck inside it. So it could look kind of like an aquarium for moths. I don't know, like what would you call it? When the Vietsnitsa, which is a national library, is hit by 30 incendiary shells, citizens worked together to try to save what books they could from the burning building. So the black butterflies of the title are the ashes of books that rained down on the city for days after. The next book that I read is Eleanore of Avignon by Elisabeth Delosier. This is a historical fiction novel. It's set in 14th century France, and the focus of this book is on medicine. It's a story about a time in history where women were not allowed to become physicians, and the use of herbs and homemade tonics by midwives was seen as witchcraft. Eleanore is a herbalist and midwife in Avignon who was trained by her mother. She becomes the assistant and apprentice to the Pope's physician, Guy de Chauliac, known as Guigo. I don't know, I butchered the name. I don't know how it's pronounced. When Joanna, Queen of Naples, Sicily, and Jerusalem, arrives in Avignon to face the trial for murdering her husband, Elea becomes her midwife during her pregnancy and delivery. In 1347, all across Europe, the plague was sweeping the towns and countryside, and people were dying by the thousands. Elea and Guigo were in a race against death to find a cause and a cure. They were trying to save as many lives as they could with almost nothing. While COVID has killed approximately 1.2 million people in the US since January 2020, the plague, also known as Black Death, wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population, around 25 million people. As if the drama of the Black Plague and the papacy weren't enough, the author deftly weaves in subplots addressing anti-Semitism, the role of women at this point in history, grief, religious fanaticism, and so much more. In terms of the spread, all of the washi tape and the stickers that I'm using are from Paper Minty Studio. The The next book that I read is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot series. Murderbot is half a robot, half human construct whose job is to be a security guard to protect some humans while they do their research on a planet. Murderbot is plainly uncomfortable with personal attention and has little interest in anything outside entertainment videos and the bare minimum required to do their job. Written as a novella, the plot takes off from page 2. It isn't long before they all realize they're facing multiple times of danger. Until this expedition, Murderbot has had generally bad experiences with the people they have been contracted to protect, and assumed this group would be the same. This is an adorable sci-fi novel. I love that this was told from the perspective of Murderbot. It was great to follow its thought processes as it navigated its complicated relationships with humans. There's a lot of fan art on Pinterest about this novel, and I just printed out one of them and just glued it on my page. The washi tape that I used, I got it in AliExpress a long time ago. I will try to find the link and put it down in the description below. By the way, all of the items that I'm used, if I can find links, I will add them on the description, so check those out. So these were all of the spreads that I created for the month of November. Here's a final flip through of everything. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.